What's up, Goober Gang? Captain Dan here with Goober Time Guide Service. In today's video I want to show you how to make the ultimate battery box. Whether you're on a boat, kayak, wherever you're going fishing, this thing's going to be the best. We're going to keep this build really simple. I'm going to put all the links to everything you need down below in case you want to follow along and build one for yourself. Let's get into it with the tools that you need to get started. Here's everything you're going to need for this particular setup. About a foot or so of red and black 10 gauge wire, some wire strippers and cutters, some butt ends to connect to your battery, whatever terminals you need there, razor blade. This crimping set goes along with these mini Anderson connectors right here, which we're going to use. They look a little bit like this, and they plug into each other. We can wire everything up like that. This particular set has some really nice silicone covers on the case right here, so that's why I chose those. You're going to need a couple glands here, appropriately sized for whatever wire you choose. I'm going 10 gauge. Some marine goop, a battery box that fits your battery pretty well with a little bit of extra room. I'll show you what I mean there in a minute. And a battery. I'm going with the 48 amp hour 14.8 volt lithium battery. This is a battery I'm going to rely on to run my electronics on my graph, my big Solix 15, and on my kayak. First thing you want to do is research whatever battery you want. I highly suggest this 48 amp hour 14.8 volt. That's going to give you the cleanest picture possible on your graph. And when it dies, it's down around 12 volts, which is where most batteries start. So it's going to deliver a ton of power to your battery. Find yourself a battery box that fits it really well. For our intents and purposes here, this case was fantastic, and it is linked below. Look at how nicely that fits. We got a little bit of room up top to work with our wiring, and some room out the side to work with our glands and maybe bunch up some wiring in there. It also seals down real tight, so your battery's not going to be flopping around in there, and it still maintains its waterproof seal around the edges. Now, I say waterproof seal, that's going to keep rain and everything off of it. There is a little venting port right here, so if you want this box to be waterproof, you're going to want to seal that up right there, but I'm going to let the battery breathe a little bit. Now that you've found a case for your battery and you know how it's going to sit, you've got a little bit of room to work with, think about which side you want your glands to come out of. So you're going to have your wires sticking out where you can connect to your accessories. For me, it's going to be my fish finder. I'm going to come out the left side of my graph, mainly because I'm going to set this on the side of my boat or tuck it up underneath my console, and I want to be able to reach in and grab my handle and pull it out. And I know that wiring is going to be really handy if it's coming out the left side of my box. I recommend doing them away from the lid. That way when you go to pull your lid up, you're not putting tension on the cables that are attached to your battery that's going to lay down the bottom of the box. Go pretty close together on these. Got my 2 holes drilled right there. I want to make sure I leave enough room so that I can tighten these glands down without them interfering with each other, but not so far apart that I'm going to put tension on my cables when I try and connect these together. I intentionally went a tiny bit small on my drill bit. I doubt these are going to fit right now, but I'm going to ream them out a little bit until they're just the right size. That way they can be a really tight fit on there for me. So just as I thought, not going to fit. All we have to do is take our drill bit, ream it out a little. Double check that again. I almost want to be able to screw these right in so they bind into the box a little bit. You can always take your razor blade and clean those edges up a little bit. And a little bit more and we're going to be good.
What are you doing?
Just brushing my teeth.
Are you using power tools again?
No.
You know you're not supposed to use them unsupervised.
Oh, it's okay. I'm almost done anyway. Now we've got those holes the size we want them to be. We're going to take our glands and screw them in. This next step is optional, but I highly recommend it. Before I get those glands tightened up all the way, I'm going to take a little bit of marine goop and just squeeze that behind them. That way when I tighten it down, we're going to have a nice seal behind it. Again, the goal is not to be waterproof, but any moisture I can keep out of this box is going to help in the long run. And now that you've got those gooped up, you can go ahead and screw them all the way down. Okay, on the inside of your box, those glands are going to be popping through. They have a little backing nut, so you want to put those on. Finger tight's usually good enough. If you wanted to, you could marine goop this side as well. I'm not going to. These glands aren't going anywhere. And at that point, that was really the hard part. A little bit of wiring and we're going to be on our way here. I'm going to take my red and my black 10 gauge wire right here, strip off the ends. I'm going to be using these Anderson connectors right here, so you can line that up and see about how much you need to strip off. It's only about 1/4 of an inch here for me. Those just fit on the end right there, and you take your crimpers. I'm using the largest connector that comes in the set. That's the 45 amp connector rated for 10 to 12 gauge wire. So just set that on your wire, take your crimpers. We're going to have to use the biggest slot here rated for 45 amps, and go ahead and crimp. As you can see, really nice tight connection right there. That's not coming undone. And do it again with your other wire. Really satisfying tool to use. The good news is these connectors are pretty much the same size as the wire, which I chose these glands to fit the wire, so they'll pass right on through without any problem. Because of that, we're going to go ahead and finish up our wiring here. On the other side, we're going to strip about 1/4 inch off again. We're going to use these 2 butt connectors. These are for 10 to 12 gauge wire as well. These are the yellows that come in the set down below. Wind your wire up. Take your 10 to 12 gauge connector, slide it on. Try not to get any strands hanging out. This is a different crimper set, same idea. We're using the yellow connector, so we're going to use the yellow section in the crimper. That's going to leave us with another really tight connection on the end. Do the same thing for your black wire. All the hard work's done, my friends. For this setup, we're going to feed our black wire in from the back here. He's going to be closest to the back. Red's going to be closest to the front. Doesn't really matter. There's no rhyme or reason. I'm just trying to line it up with my battery terminals the best that I can. To get those glands to be somewhat more waterproof, you have to put the caps on them. So grab those caps, slide them on. All the way back towards the box, and then tighten those up. And what's going to happen there is there's a little rubber piece, and as you tighten, that's going to clamp down on the wire. So it's going to seal that off. It's also going to hold some pressure on the wire so it can't get tugged on from the outside. So if you accidentally yank on these, you're not going to rip anything out of your battery. See, I'm pulling on this wire pretty hard. It's not really sliding anywhere. I have to loosen up the gland and then pull my wire through to get my slack out. To finish up this side out here, I'm going to take my Anderson connector and my utility knife. I'm just going to cut a little slit in the end here. Just plunge the blade in there. Don't go crazy with it. We want that to be a little bit tight as well. We're going to take both of our Anderson connectors and go through that slit in the bottom and push that down over our wire. It helps to rotate a little bit, especially when you get up towards the wire where it's a little fatter. Eventually you'll get to the point where your wires are sticking out the other side and you can just pull them through. Slide that down a little bit. Make sure nothing got bent up in the process. If you look inside these Anderson connectors, they've got a little metal plate in there. This is going to come up through the back and hook onto that plate so it can't get pulled out. Prong needs to be facing up when you have the skinny part on the top. So go ahead and slide that in. Sometimes you have to push pretty hard to get those to go, and you'll hear that positive click when it finally goes over. So I don't know if you can see in there or not, but one of them is engaged and the other one's not in there yet, so it does look a little different from the left to the right side. And we'll do the same thing with the black wire. Okay, pull that silicone cap up to cover up the back end here. If you got a nice tight seal right there, you know it's going to be somewhat water resistant. Certainly not going to handle anything being submerged, and rain could get in there, so keep an eye on your connections. Use some dielectric grease if you and just work that into place. You want just the end sticking out there. So I go to my charger and I put one of these on, and I also want to go to the power cord on my fish finder and put one of these on so it's plug and play to all my accessories. I can plug the charger in when I get home, crack the box open so it can breathe a little bit in case any heat pops in there, and then unplug it, plug it into the boat, and I'm good to go. Take it in the kayak, have one of these on the kayak, boom, plug and play, ready to go. Now it's just a matter of getting your wires up towards the top here, placing your battery in. I like to connect my battery before I turn it in sideways. So I'll stand it up on its side, push these connectors onto the plates here. We now have power. And then you can make sure that your glands are loose, and you can go ahead and orient your battery however you need to. And lay it in there. Make sure that no wires are gonna get pinched when you close the box down. Tuck them in along the side. Have a little bit of room up front if you need to. Close the lid, snap it, tighten your glands up, and you are done. Plug that in wherever you need to. I sure hope it helps. If you like that video, give it a thumbs up. Follow us along for more tips, tricks, and fishing adventures out on the water. We'll see you later, guys.